We don't just read the books, we dissect them. Line by line, brick by brick. That was mad dramatic. But we do break down how fiction echoes real life. This is Shelf Sabotage. Hey everybody, today we are talking about Ring Shout by Djèlí Clark. All right, sis, let's go ahead and get started. So
All right.
Tasha's actually the one that introduced me to this book. She said it was similar to Sinners, which I still have not watched. I will put it on my list, my ever-growing list of things to watch. Let's start with the synopsis in the front of the book. In America, demons wear white hoods. In 1915, the birth of a nation cast a spell across America, swelling the clan's ranks and drinking deep from the darkest thoughts of white folk. All across the nation they ride, spreading fear and violence among the vulnerable. They plan to bring hell to earth, but even Ku Kluxes can die. Standing in their way are Maurice Boudreaux and her fellow resistance fighters, a foul-mouthed sharpshooter and a Harlem hellfighter. Armed with blade, bullet, and bomb, they hunt their hunters and send the clan's demons straight to hell. But something awful's brewing in Macon, and the war on hell is about to heat up. Can Maurice stop the clan before it ends the world? Ooh, okay. This also sheds some light when it says it sends them to hell. It makes sense now why they were burning to ashes when they were killing them. Let's not jump ahead. Okay.
Okay.
What did you think about the book, sis?
I have watched Sinners. I've seen Sinners 4 times, and we're actually about to do a viewing of
Four?
it 4 times. I saw it in the movie theater 4 times.
This must be great because Tasha's the type of person that's not watching stuff, reading
No.
stuff more than once. So, 4?
Yeah, that's how good it was to me. I mean, what's funny is, and I don't know if he's gonna watch this, but my brother watches The Walking Dead because of how we grew up. It's funny how some stuff I'm willing to kind of dibble dabble in, but there's some stuff that's still like, oh, I can't, I don't want, I can't watch that. So I've never watched The Walking Dead. And he's like, Tosh, you know, it can't be bad if I'm watching it. And so I figured that he would be okay with watching Sinners. But for me, this was probably the first vampire type movie that I ever watched. What I realized watching it was that it really wasn't a vampire movie. It was a movie with much deeper meaning that just happened to have a vampire backdrop. A lot of book talkers and pages were saying, hey, if you like Sinners, you should check out Ring Shout. That is how we got to that recommendation. Also, because it's a slightly shorter read. That said, I'll be honest, throughout the majority of the book, and I both tried reading it and listening to it as an audiobook, which I struggle with. That's a whole nother conversation. But I felt confused throughout a lot of the story.
Yes, agreed.
I feel like in the beginning, part of it was the vernacular. I had to get used to that. One of the things I wish is that he had done a different turn. So basically, the clan, if I'm understanding correctly, is just the men who
The
are
KKK.
clan, the KKK. But the Ku Kluxes are the ones that have been turned by this evil demonic thing. And I wish that there had been a different name for the Ku Kluxes, because that was throwing me off a whole lot in the beginning too. I knew that he was indicating that they're different, but I wasn't initially following what exactly the difference was. Then I realized that, okay, one's the monster, one's the actual man. And as I was doing research, I saw some people talking about how it was implying that at the stage of being a clan member, they still kind of had a choice as to
which way they're gonna go.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I feel like that's symbolism or reflective of actual white people today. As we got near the end, was starting to get a little bit more clarity and engaged in terms of the actual fight that was taking place, that climax, and then the resolution. The third of the book, that last part of the book is where things started turning around for me. I did have the thought in my head as I was reading, is this what horror is usually like? Because if so, I don't think I'm gonna like this as a genre. But I don't know if it's just the way that this author writes, or if this is typical of the genre, because it's also historical fiction on top of being fantasy/science fiction. Maybe if I read a horror story that was more like Jordan Peele, more modern, maybe I'd feel different.
I do find Jordan Peele hard to understand too, though. I agree. I had a hard time following because in the beginning, I knew it was horror, but I was taking what they were saying for like literal truth. I don't know how to
Mhm.
explain it. So when they started saying they morphed and they started eating the dogs, I was like, wait, what? I'm not
Yeah.
understanding. Then I had to keep reading to realize this was a fantasy. They kept doing flashbacks of Maurice having some sort of traumatic event, which they didn't reveal later was the KKK came in and killed her brother and her parents, and she was hiding. Once I got to a certain point, it was page 133. I remember noting it. And I was like, I wonder if when this book ends, they're going to say this was actually Maurice in like a dream. This was a fantasy of hers. And this
Mm.
was her way to revenge for her family's killing. We went into her dreams a lot where she was reenacting it or she went somewhere and someone saw her
Mhm.
sibling again. I was like, I wonder if this is all just a dream of hers. And the Ku Kluxes, which by the way, I feel like for the last 34 years, I was saying Ku Klux Klan when it's Ku Klux Klan, but I used to say KKK.
Yeah.
But the Ku Kluxes, that they're actually monsters in her dream of the
Mm.
people that go in and kill, like the
Mhm.
mob, like people that killed Emmett Till, like those are Ku Kluxes.
Right.
Those are the type of monsters.
That's a good take.
So once I started reading like that, I was like, this is obviously it's all a fantasy world. This is not literal. Let me give the meaning of a ring shout. A ring shout is an ecstatic traditional African American religious ritual involving participants moving in a counterclockwise circle, stomping, clapping, and singing in a call and response style. This practice has roots in West African spirituality and was crucial way for enslaved people to preserve their cultural heritage while blending it with Christianity and became an important act of spiritual and cultural resistance. So I had never heard of a ring shout before.
Something I was reading was saying that the author, his degrees are in African American studies and influence why he incorporated those elements. Another similarity to Sinners was that there is, I won't do a spoiler, but there's a scene that now that I know what a ring shout is, to me, it's like a ring shout. And that was one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. It speaks to the importance and significance of music for
Mhm.
Black people,
Oh,
period, like across.
absolutely.
So I could see that having the conjuring power. Hopefully, you'll watch Sinners, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Now that you say it, I can think of other films where they're in front of a bonfire and they're going around.
Mhm.
Maybe that's something similar to a ring shout. In elementary school, you know how you pour out a drink? People like, oh, I'm pouring out a 40 for my homie. A teacher in elementary school was like, that's actually comes from an African tradition called libation, honoring your
Mm.
ancestors. You're pouring something out for them so they can have some too. You know, people do like the altars and stuff.
Sometimes there's things that we do as a people that we don't even know why we do them, but
Yes,
I
yes,
feel like they're just in us. We may not ever know the historical rooting of it.
absolutely. Even the expression jumping the broom, slaves, that's how they got married
Yeah.
by jumping the broom. It's all in our DNA, we just don't know it. Tell me how you fared with the Geechee woman when she was talking. It was a little hard for me.
It was hard for me when she really came onto the scene, I was listening, and it
Mhm.
was really hard for me to follow. I struggled with her narration. So for the Geechee woman, I couldn't follow much of what she was saying. I remember in the beginning when they were in the house after that first shooting, and then they ended up going, I think, to her house, and they were talking about the drink, the potion she makes to
Mama's
sell.
water or something?
Yes, I don't know if in that moment she was doing a ring shout.
There was a lot of characters, and I'm also trying to figure out who the shouters were. They may mention the shouters stayed behind, the shouters, and I don't know, I guess the shouters would have been the people inside of the ring shout.
Yes, that's what I thought.
That might have been, like, the people that were with the Geechee woman, and is that Aunt Jadine and Aunt Odine, are those women part of the shouters too?
That's who I think, because remember, they ended up showing up.
Yeah.
That's who I think it was.
There was a lot of characters that I couldn't quite piece together their relevance. What are the 3 aunts called?
Um,
She had a name for them? I
mm,
was trying to figure out what their relevance is to, like, her memories and her trauma. They seem like they're watching over her, so I guess they might have been ancestors?
Yeah, it seems like they're ancestors. To that point about all these different characters, if I wrote a book, I would have a key. I would have a
Yes,
key
yes. I agree, 100% agree.
that I can just reference as needed,
Yes.
especially if you know you have a lot of random characters
Yeah.
and that there are many who are way less significant in the story. So it's easy to forget about them.
I agree. In the beginning, I thought it was men. It did read as men. I was like, "Okay, look, with some badass women, one of them being queer." They definitely talked about her being booed up.
I did not read them as men. I kind of got from the get that they were just tomboyish, maybe.
Mm,
I don't know if this was the author's intent. Having Chef be the character that she was, I think is significant because, and now it's making me think, I'm actually surprised that there wasn't, you know how they say these days that oftentimes in any TV show, any movie, there's going to be some,
white savior.
well, that too, but no, there's
Oh.
going to be some like gay couple,
Yeah, yeah,
gay
yeah.
something. But I'm like thinking back and I actually don't recall there being any character that was overtly like you knew that about them in the movie, which is now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of
Sinners.
surprising. But I say that to say that when did he write this book? Hold on, let me see. This was 2020. That's the copyright at least. I'd be curious to ask him because I hear T.S. Madison sometimes talk about this and
Mhm.
how Black people separate out queer
Yeah.
individuals, the Black queer community, as if they're not also Black. It was cool to have that character in here and have them play a significant role in the
Mhm.
fight, and that it just be they're all three on the same level. That kinda stood out to me.
I thought it read like men because they were talking about Chef being in the army, and it sounded like Chef was an actual soldier. So I was like, were women soldiers a thing in
Mm.
22 is when this is based? But then again, it
That's a
is
good question.
fantasy. That's what kind of threw me off thinking it was men. And yes, to the queer thing, like, oh, they're turning people gay. It's like gay Black people exist regardless. If it's a
And
show
have
me the movie.
been, like, y'all, please.
Like, please.
You sitting right beside somebody in your church and don't even know it, like,
Okay. The organist with
oh,
like, come on,
exactly.
please, please. I just opened to page 61. The first thing that came out is white folks is niggers, which I usually don't even say the N word. That whole debate between little N and big N, it reminded
Yeah.
me of did they say with an A or ER? Like, was it a hard ER?
They were saying it with hard ER, and this is a
Yeah.
part that I was listening to when I was restocking, and I was busting out laughing because it made me think about how I do say it, but not like on a regular all the time
Mhm.
basis, but it always makes me laugh when you're watching something and the person is referring to somebody not Black, and they're like, "Nigga, please,"
Yeah.
it just tickles me when it's somebody white.
What's the,
But no, they
yeah,
was using the hard ER. Did you watch Lovecraft Country?
mm,
The author is saying that it's like that. He said the idea for the novella started bubbling up in 2015. He didn't pitch it until 2019, but elements of the story date back to research he had done over a decade ago around ex-slave narratives, the ring shout tradition, the music that accompanies the ring shout tradition, time that he spent teaching a course on slavery in cinema, which is what forced him to have to watch Birth of a Nation a whole lot. He said his childhood spent devouring Magdalene, I don't know how you pronounce this name, but this woman's novels, Beyonce's video for Formation, some H Town hip hop, because apparently he grew up in Houston. This speaks to what we're talking about, where it's a whole lot going on. He said, I threw a lot up in there. Had no idea if that mashup was gonna work. So I'm delighted when I hear it does. Sir.
yeah. It was a lot, and there were certain references that felt modern, like, in the beginning when they went somewhere and Sadie picked up a tabloid, and I was like, "Were tabloids a
Yes.
thing in
Yes.
1922?"
And matter of fact, that threw me because like you were saying, it took you a second to like really sink into, okay, this is fantasy. That threw me off because I did know that it was supposed to be like a reimagining, but I'm
Yeah.
like, is there some element of time
Yeah,
differences? But yeah.
travel, yes, yes. One thing I always knew about Stone Mountain is I have a lot of family in Georgia, and when we had our family reunion there one year, we went and climbed Stone Mountain as an activity,
Mhm.
and I remember, like, one of my family members saying this is where the KKK used to meet
Mm.
and do their stuff at Stone Mountain. That was their meeting place for years. That was incorporated here, which is something that triggered my memory.
Similar to the idea of music and song being
Mhm.
a connector and a weapon, so to speak, for us and our people, something that we can use as part of the fight. I found interesting the idea of the movie as their tool. The viewing of the movie was what helped the Ku Kluxes infiltrate and take over the
Yeah.
Klan with their ultimate goal of bringing the Cyclops out. The crux of their whole effort was this movie. I think about when I was teaching first year international students, American cultures at George Mason University. These students had come to the States for school, and this was their first or second semester at George Mason. Because George Mason has such a huge international student population, they have this program, a pathway for them. And we're talking about American cultures, but a lot of the classes also to help them get acclimated. I did a lesson on the portrayal of Black athletes in the
Mhm.
media and how we're portrayed in general. I had some slides showing different images, and one of them was a couple of pictures of Black men with children depicting a family unit. And they were pushing back so hard on that being a reality. And I said, well, where are you getting this idea that this could not be possible? And it never failed. They would always say, well, this is what I see on TV back home. The one time it came up about the way people speak, and I said, I'm standing right here in front of you, a Black person that does not align with any of the stereotypes that you have. I'm like, not that I represent everybody Black, but now you are here experiencing somebody in
Yes.
real life, and you are so wedded to the depiction from TV. In real life, Birth of a Nation actually acted as that.
So funny how
Yep.
perspectives are skewed to what
Yeah.
they want to believe is the truth. That's so interesting. Oh, we didn't get into the witch doctors, the white doctors, night doctors, and that Dr. Bassett. He was somebody that was trying to fight the Ku Kluxes. He had to sell his soul in order to do that. He's the one that came and eventually helped them defeat the Ku Kluxes on Stone Mountain. Oh, I actually just found it.
What page was it?
127. Antoine Basset, a colored physician looking for the night
Mm.
doctors in old slave stories. You figured out they was real, went searching for the dead angel oak tree. That was in 1937 in North Carolina. I come here from Macon, Georgia in 1922. So there was some time bouncing.
The excessive drinking of water was very interesting to me too. They mentioned how the Ku Kluxes would be so thirsty all the time.
Mm.
The author said it was history in the archives that first gave him the idea. He said in the ex slaves narratives, former slaves who lived during Reconstruction described the first Klan as monstrous. And they described them as haints dressed with horns. Then there were stories of Klan members who attempted to terrorize victims by pretending to drink seemingly inhuman quantities of water. Who does that? Like, that's
Wait,
so
what? They
strange.
did repeat that line?
There were stories of Klan members attempting to terrorize victims by pretending to drink seemingly inhuman quantities of water. That is so
So they
that's
try to make them feel like they were of a different realm?
that's what I'm assuming. I never heard that before,
Me neither.
but he's saying that that's why he put that in the book, because I remember thinking like that's it seems so random and odd, but I never heard that piece of history. Because what
You
does
know
that even
what?
mean? Like, if I see somebody drinking a whole bunch of water, like, I'm not gonna be scared. No.
Me me either, but for the time, knowing how spiritual Black people were, and especially back then, they have known something that was of that time that we didn't. They're like, "If we can scare these Black people thinking we're of a different world, then they'll
That's
bow
a
to
good
us."
point.
How also
Wow.
do you pretend to drink water, though?
That that's the other thing. I don't know, that's just weird. I wanna do some more research on that because
Yeah, yeah, I would look into that for sure.
it says enslaved people revealed that they saw through oh, so the it's he so he says the enslaved people revealed that they saw through this sleight of hand. So this, like, trying to trick people with the water, they saw
Mhm.
through it.
Yeah, that's Lauren.
That's Lauren.
I mean, are you really gonna just pretend to drink? Like, how do you pretend to drink water? Are you spitting it back out? Like, what do
Look,
you
the only thing I can think of is when, on the movies and they be throwing it to the back.
over this? Oh, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what did the Grand Cyclops. Oh, is the Grand like
The
what?
Grand Wizard.
Yes, that just came to me as I said it. Random though, Michael George sounded fine as hell.
He sure did.
She said he got a little V. I said D'Angelo.
Damn. When I heard that, I was like, okay. Because I like me a little V now.
I was like, oh, D'Angelo, okay. The girl, he sounded fine.
But look, it made me think about the way she described their little sex scene. I'm like, listen, why couldn't it be like this?
Yes,
You already know.
it was very realistic.
Yes.
Very realistic. There was a complicated relationship with Maurice and Sadie. They would
Hmm.
have their little back and forth, but then when
Yeah.
Sadie got killed, she missed Sadie. End of the day, that's my girl. And when Sadie died, I was like, we just got to know Sadie. We just got to know her. She died so quickly.
That and then what's his name? Butcher. He got on my nerves so bad because when Maurice was like, essentially, she was saying, "Is there a way for us to bring them back?" When she was trying to figure out what Butcher wanted, what Butcher and the other creatures wanted, she said something like, "And then they'll come back." And he just basically was like, "Oh no, absolutely not. Like that. That should have
Oh,
been
like
said."
want her family to come back?
Yes,
He was
yes.
like, oh, I didn't even
He
think
was like,
about
"Oh
that.
no, like I don't know what you thought." Like, it was like, "No, we trying to come over there with you. Like we trying to come on your side." For that fleeting moment when she was considering it, isn't that where the aunt ended up saying we had to make sure you was gonna make the right decision or something like that? I feel like that was the aunt. Maybe it was Chef, but
I
it,
think it was Jeff.
it was Chef. Okay, I don't want to give too much of Sinners away, but
You give it away, child.
okay, this is a theme I think in most vampire movies, if I'm not mistaken. But the idea of you have to be invited in; they cannot
Mhm.
just come into the space. And so the whole movie, once they enter the scene, they're trying to get the people to tell them to come into the place. So they try all
Yeah.
these tactics, but as long as they're inside that juke joint, they're technically safe. The lead vampire is trying all kinds of of stuff. They were Irish. So his core message is we're oppressed too. We can come together. Let's
Mhm.
unite in our trauma and then we can be one. He's making it sound all flowery and you can see some of them almost starting to fall for it, but
Yeah.
then other ones is having to snap them out of it. Like, absolutely not.
At first, I was like, he wants to come in. Like, why does he want her? I guess he wanted access to the black people freely to terrorize them.
Well, that, but I wasn't sure if I was interpreting it correctly, but he had done that whole monologue about we need the hate to fuel what we're doing.
Yes,
Then he
that's
was
what
saying that you have such hatred for us and what we've done. That's where I'm saying it was similar to the vampires trying to combine with the people in Sinners. He was trying to pitch it as if joining would be some type of mutually beneficial thing, but
Mhm.
really he was just trying to get access to the hate that they had. It just was very twisted, but I was like, I don't know if that makes sense, if that's what he was really saying.
I read it as the black people, we didn't have the hate that they had, and they
Okay.
were feeding off the hate.
Yes.
And then that's why it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But it was like they were feeding off the hate, but they
Let me get
needed
that.
us to be certain vessels to infiltrate the black community.
Because he says, oh, okay. See, I found it. So it wasn't okay. So he
What page?
says, 150. Butcher says, "No, Maurice, you misunderstand our meaning. Well, you see, we're not asking you to switch sides. We're offering to come over to you." And then Maurice says, "What?" And he says, "Be our champion, Maurice. Lead our armies. Give your people the one thing they lack." And she said, "Hate." And he said, "Power." He said, "You bring us their righteous, justified hate, and we will grant you power enough to never need fear anyone again. Power enough to protect yourselves and defeat your foes to make them cower." That's where I was getting it from, where they tried to pitch it like this is going to help you too. We
Mhm.
both get what we want. But in the end, it's like, no.
Yeah, but I don't understand how that would benefit us as black people at all.
He's telling her that if he comes over to our side, then we'll be able to take advantage of the power that they innately have as white people in general.
Mhm.
He's selling her a dream. We know for real, it's not gonna
Exactly.
happen. Just like in Sinners, at the end of the day, once they invited them in, they getting bitten and it's a wrap. Like it's
Mhm.
not gonna be and then y'all are frozen in this in-between space forever. So it's not true what they're saying, but that's what he was saying though.
Now that we're talking about the out loud, it's maybe a metaphor for assimilation.
Mm,
Once we become a
that's
part of their
good.
community, they look at
Mhm.
us as one of them. Even a little further, there's certain black men, people in general, that think if they reproduce
Child.
with white, that it's gonna be easier for the child. That's the far-fetched end of it,
But then be
for the
shocked
bloodline.
when they okay.
Okay? Okay,
Yeah.
because we know, we can fill in the blanks.
Yes.
But so now that we're saying that, that's what I feel like, because this was before integration.
Mhm.
So, yeah, this feels like a metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the storyline of Maurice and her boo and her always having her guard up in the
Yes.
situation, in a lot of ways, that is how we
Yes. Mhm.
operate, but it's because life has made it so that's how we have to, or how we at least feel like we have to show up, and it's hard to turn that off. Fast forward to when she ended up having to kill him, then that leading to the breakthrough as it pertains to her finally being able to see the fullness of the vision she kept on having, making the connection between Black women's relationship with Black men, the things we go through with them, in order for her to save herself and her people, having to sever the tie with the Black man. It was just interesting to me when reflecting on her relationship with him across the entire book, always being like
Can't let him know I
standoff.
missed him, yeah.
Yeah.
Even with you saying that, for me, I think what was the releasing point was what she thought was something she needed to hold on to was the story and the memory of what actually
Mm.
happened that night, and the little girl kept appearing. Once
Yeah,
she went to Dr. Bassett in the tree, and she told the memory, and she was like, "No, not this. This is the one thing I can't tell."
yeah,
Once that happened, the little girl stopped appearing, so she stopped
yeah,
having night terrors. Sometimes we hold on to that trauma so much because that's that identity. I was happy she got to let that go because in the end, what were you fighting for? There was the way that you didn't make amends with it because she kept envisioning the flashback her as a little
mhm,
girl. She really was 18 when it happened. Being in that position and feeling helpless and as a child, can't do anything. I'm happy she got to let that go because I think that's when she was able to flourish with
yeah,
George, finally get some rest, sleep,
mhm,
because
yeah,
that's a horrifying
yeah.
thing to happen.
It speaks to how a lot of times, because we haven't worked through or
Mhm.
healed from whatever the actual thing is, that we are instead projecting the issues onto this other situation, which
Yes.
could be our romantic
Mhm.
relationship, it could be a friend relationship, it could be a family, whatever. But to your point, not until you actually address the real thing are you
Yeah,
gonna be free.
exactly. Like hyper independence, like it's just easier for me to do it myself because I just didn't have nobody I could do it for. But now
Right.
you want to help me? Gladly. Take
Okay,
it. Take it.
please.
Take it off my plate.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what? As we talk through this, I feel like I understand it a little better. I feel like I
Yeah.
understand it a little better. So they're making it series. I can't remember if it's on Hulu.
Really?
I can't remember if they said it was on Hulu. Let me check.
Well, I'll definitely be tuned in because I think being able to visualize it would be
Yeah.
helpful. Octavia Butler, Kindred, I feel, is in a similar realm, not the horror piece, but the science fiction fantasy. And the way that Kindred is written, for me at least, it was very easy to imagine and picture what she was talking about, although we know time travel isn't real. But with this, a lot of the elements were hard for me to picture or imagine. So I really look forward to seeing it depicted on screen versus because I was able to imagine easily with Kindred, that contributed to my disappointment with the actual show when I saw it. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, the book is always better.
yeah.
Doesn't say where it's going to show the Ring Shout series, but it's being developed, and the director is going to be Cassie Lemons, and she directed Eve's Bayou.
Okay.
Yes, so she's been in the business for a little bit, plus some other things with Eve's Bayou. Oh, Harriet? Did you watch Harriet when it came out? Like, right before the
Yes. Mhm.
pandemic? So she directed Harriet as well.
Okay.
And Whitney Houston, I Wanna Dance with Somebody. I don't think I had liked that
I
though.
didn't watch that. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
With this being adapted into a show, it's not slavery times per se. It's after that, but it's also showing us fighting
Fighting
back.
back. Mhm.
So I like it in that sense too. But I've also seen where people will talk about, and maybe this is why Jordan Peele does it, but they talk about horror being a good medium for telling our lived experience because it's so traumatic. I'm excited to watch the show.
Same. This reminded me as you were talking about people wanna foolishly say, like, "I'm not my ancestors, I'll fight back." Like, our ancestors was
Child.
not fighting for us to be where we are now, like, to be able to vote and go to college. But I feel like this is a nice revenge or
Mhm.
redemption,
Yep.
like how we were fighting back.
The episode I just released, Black One Piece, I said that. I cannot stand when people say, y'all sound so ignorant when you
So
say
ignorant.
that.
Like, how why when were we not fighting back?
In that same vein, I'll say this and then I'm pretty much done. Juxtaposed with that ignorant statement, I've also heard several people at different points in times say something to the effect of us being our ancestors' wildest dreams. And I
Mhm.
get the sentiment and everything, but it has not been until Corinthia and I were sitting down talking about his new job and what he'll be doing as it pertains to the youth in the school system. And of course, you're advocating for all youth in a role like
Mhm.
that. But as a Black individual, at the end of the day, you
Yes.
also are really keeping an eye out on those
Mhm.
issues that somebody who is not Black would not know to
Understand,
watch.
exactly.
And so
Mhm.
we were just talking about that and the beauty of his journey and getting to that point. And I was telling him, out of all the stuff that I may have accomplished, it's only been since I've been in this space and people come in and will say they're so thankful that this space exists. They feel safe in here. It's one of the
Mhm.
only places that they feel like they could just be. That I was like, now I know what people mean when they say that because
Yes.
I'm like, man, me, my friends, the stuff we're doing, I can't imagine what the ancestors would be thinking.
1,000%. Even just like the women ancestors, like we can live and survive on our own. We don't need the husband to survive with us. Like
Mhm.
we can have our own bank accounts. We like we're doing so much. Even
Yeah.
my grandmother now, she's 87. And I just be like, oh, I went to Miami for the weekend. I went to a different country, something. And she just be like, by yourself. And I was like, yeah. I just picked up and went.
Mhm.
And of course she has a paranoia, like be safe out there. But I know
Mhm.
she does look at me and it's just like, you
Mhm.
are so much more but I'm about to be 35. She
Mhm.
had full grown children by 35. Her kids were like 17, 18.
Mhm.
I'm not even sure if she had came to the US yet by that age. But her life was just so different. So much survival mode.
Yeah.
So what would you give the book out of 5?
I would give it I would say a 3.8.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I would say 3. I would say
Because I feel like coming in, I probably was more at like a 2.5.
3. Mhm.
But I feel like there's probably even so much more that we haven't gotten to, and, maybe when we air it, other listeners will
Mhm.
contribute their thoughts too, but I like the meaning that we were able to pull from it
Yeah.
and the parallels, so that raised it for me a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and cold email DJ if I can find his email address and message him and be like, "Can you come on for a bonus episode?" This because people with minds like this always intrigue me, like Jordan Peele, because it's like this is just such a far fetched story. Like,
Mhm.
where did your mind even come up with this?
This is more of a book club pick, a book that you need to bounce off of other people.
Yes, everybody's interpretation is gonna be different
Yes. Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
Would you do any rewrites outside of the key?
Outside of the key, like I said in the beginning, we could have called the Ku Klux is something else,
Yeah,
and it would not have negatively impacted
that's
the
fair.
yeah.
I also this is what the reference that I couldn't make. In some beginning of some of the
Mhm.
chapters, it would say this was an interview, I guess, by a former
Yes.
slave,
Mhm.
transliterated from the Gullah by EK. Who
Mhm.
was EK?
Remember the random German lady? Remember watch. But that's EK 'cause I it 'cau
A random German lady.
yes, it's a lady. It's like in the 2nd chapter.
Oh, and she came down to Macon to be with somebody?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, I do
And
remember being like, "Oh, there's a white amongst us?" Was she with the aunts? The shouters or something?
I don't know if she was with the Shouters, but she well, yeah, I guess because she was at the house in that early scene when the Gullah woman initially had her that first ring shout, when she first had with the potion and all that stuff. She was there.
So what did EK stand for?
The only reason why I knew it was her is because I was confused of who is this EK, but then
Mhm.
somewhere they say her name and those were her initials, and that's
Okay.
what made me realize. I can't find it now, but
So I was thinking that these little, passages were actual, like, translated from actual slaves, like, this was a bit of reality? So I
mhm.
guess not then. This is also in the story.
I thought it
Oh,
was
here
in
it
the
is, here it
story.
is. Emma Cross in the beginning.
Yes,
Here it
yes,
is.
yes, yes, yes.
Interview with Uncle Will, age 67, transliterated by I wonder if she's a real person. Oh, and then it says hereafter EK. I forgot what her reasoning was for coming to Macon. She had followed, like, some man or something, right?
Yes, and then they would always be, like, debating and all the other kinda stuff.
Okay, yeah. It slightly rings a bell.
I like how we were able to come to a more positive assessment after working through the
It
stuff.
takes some digging because at first I was reading it and I was like, "I don't feel like I have anything to talk about with this," but I take that back. If there are any other recommendations similar to Ring Shout, I am interested in reading. I just want to get outside my reading comfort zone.
Mhm.
Or any shows similar to
Mm.
this, I would really like. Anything to add, Dr. Tasha, before we say goodbye?
Thank y'all for listening. Great episode.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.